6 a.m. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's a great time to be alive. I hope your faces are less frozen than mine was coming in today. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioners Joliet,
Yeah, here.
Luce.
Yeah.
Nelson,
Here.
Hoffman,
Present.
Spiz is absent with notice. Erickson Gall,
Here.
Johnson.
Present.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Everyone, please rise for our pledge of allegiance. I'm going to ask our brand new colleague to kindly lead us in the pledge today.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks a bunch. And I just, while we're acknowledging you, thank you so much for being here. And it's exciting to have a new face to the group. We're an interesting committee. We've lost 2 of our members, and yeah, so it's nice to have fresh blood. So thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes dated November 7th, 2023, moved by Commissioner Joliet, seconded by Commissioner Nelson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. That passes. Thank you very much. I would entertain a motion to approve today's agenda. Motion by Commissioner Erickson Galt, seconded by Commissioner Joliet. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That also passes. Thanks so much. I would open public comment number 1. Anyone from the public wishing to address this body on any items on the agenda, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public comment. We have 2 communications today. The first is an exception to Board Rules FY 2024 grant application with State Court Administrative Office for Legal Self-Help Centers. I'll take these separately. Do I have a motion to receive and file that one? Motioned by Commissioner Hoffman, seconded by Commissioner Nelson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That is received and filed. Communication number 2, or B, exception to Board Rules application to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Invasive Species Grant Program.
Are we going to do the legislative update first? Are we doing 2 different communications?
Oh, that's on the regular agenda. I'm just doing communications.
Oh, we're doing the communications
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
separately? Okay.
Yeah, so that'll be the first one. No, it's all good. Do I have a motion to receive and file item B, moved by Commissioner Nelson, seconded by Commissioner Erickson Galt? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That has been received. All right, moving on to our regular agenda then, legislative update. I'll go ahead and open the floor to our good friend Jim. Table is all yours.
They're in the ceiling.
Everywhere there are one.
You will be heard.
That's what you say.
I always do. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. It's good to see you. Hope you all had a nice Thanksgiving. And welcome to the new commissioner. Nice to see you, or meet you. Just a couple of things, actually, because if you recall our last meeting, we talked about the risk of sine die happening. And it pretty much occurred on schedule, what everybody in town thought was gonna happen, which was as a result of the 2 special elections, one in Warren and one in Westland, the numbers of Democrat House members dropped from 56 to 54 to a tie. So the decision was made by the speaker to end session. And what that will result in is that all of the bills that were signed by the governor, the effective date that did not receive immediate effect are now going to take place on February 13th. They will be granted immediate effect. So one of the things that was important to the administration was the movement of the presidential primary. That now will take place in a period early enough for it to be workable. The other really significant issue, I think, that was done since the last time was the financial disclosures. If you recall, last year the voters passed not a bill, but a petition drive to require that state officials disclose their personal financial records as well as their spouse. That too is not given immediate effect, but now because of sine die, it has. So the other significant thing would be that the governor scheduled the two special elections. The first is the primary for the House seats in Westland and Warren on January 30th, and then the general will be on April 16th. So it's likely that there will not be any voting until those seats, those races are finalized by the Board of Canvassers. So that leaves us, normally, the normal schedule of the upcoming year is the governor gives her state of the state, and then appropriations committees immediately start working on the state budget. It does not prohibit, sine die and not being in session does not prohibit committees to meet. They can still meet. Appropriations, I don't think. And Brendan, Commissioner, you know you're probably already working on the budget for next year. So member offices, especially appropriations, likely will be getting their budgets prepared so that they can stay on track. Generally speaking, especially in election year, which next year is, the House and Senate like to get the budgets done and to the governor by July 4th. I believe that's still a reality, still possible, even though they're probably not gonna meet until those seats are confirmed. So that's pretty much, it's not a very long report because they're gone. So, and it'll be interesting to see how things move forward between January and April 16th. I think it's very doable to get a lot of budget work done. A lot of this stuff is done in committee meetings anyway before it ever comes to the floor. So you all know how the committee systems work. So what it does leave behind a House and Senate voting on legislation that could be passed out of either or both houses in the first couple months of the year. So that's my report. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Mr. Hoffman.
Thank you, Jim, and happy holidays to you.
Thank you.
I've been reading about Senate Bill 530, I believe it passed Senate, regarding some changes to the no-fault auto policy to help, I don't know if you know anything about that, it's kind of new, I think, where they want to adjust the pay that in-home care people who may be taking care of their own child or spouse that was injured in a catastrophic accident. They use the example of the 3-year-old girl who's now 6, who's paralyzed from the neck down. And I think when they passed this legislation to save everybody a little bit of money, they cut the pay 45% for those people. And a lot of companies went out of business. You can't pay somebody $11, $12 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wondered if you have any update or know anything about that one. I know it's new.
Senator Kavanaugh, chair of the Senate Insurance Committee, that was her bill. It was a 2-bill package, her and Sarah Anthony. They didn't do a lot of consulting with the House Chair of Insurance, Representative Brenda Carter. And so those bills are now in the House, but in my conversations with the chairwoman, Carter, and also with the speaker, that the speaker has asked Brenda Carter to come up with a House version over the issue. I think there's pretty strong feelings that mistakes were made in the auto no-fault reform over a couple of years ago. And there is general consensus that some things need to be fixed. The House did not like what the Senate sent them. So we're gonna have to see what eventually, and that's a work group. It's a great question because that's a perfect example of a work group that's gonna start meeting already and try to come up with a House version and be ready to move it at some point early in the year. That's not an issue that they typically want to do in election year because it's rather controversial, so it's hard to say, hard to anticipate what's gonna happen, but I think at the end of the day that if they do get something to the governor's desk, it'll look a lot different from what the Senate version is, if that answers your question.
Well, to a certain degree, and what I've read is it'll raises the wage of that person who takes care of a family member from $12 an hour to 19. And before they were restricted to like 8 hours a day or something, and it extends that too.
Yeah.
Which paying some family member to take care of someone who's critically injured is a lot cheaper than sending them to a nursing home or a hospital or,
Agreed,
yeah, I just think it's a sad state of affairs.
it is, yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions? I have a few, and honestly, if you guys want, please feel free to jump in. Thanks for coming, Jim. I appreciate it. So just following up on a few things, I know Commissioner Hoffman was concerned earlier about HB's 5120 to 23, which is the solar and wind siting ones. I guess I'm just wondering, and my boss asked me to do a lot of work to help translate this to all of our locals. If you had any reaction on how we can communicate to our CVTs about those bills, if anything. I don't know if Commissioner Hoffman, you had any
Those are-
comments to add, but.
As you know, those are hyper controversial. This is a line in the sand between the locals and the state. The question is how to communicate to the cities, villages, and townships?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, knowing that it's not our job to be their counsel, but if any of us are asked about, hey, what does this mean for X, Y, or Z thing, so that we can frankly communicate with our constituent leaders.
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess I think the best way would be to put together a one-page brief, right? And I don't have that with me now. I could help you get one, and put it on your Facebook pages or whatever, however you can communicate to your constituents. But yeah, there's a lot of upset people on both sides of the issue, and it wasn't very friendly in the House and Senate debate either, as you know. So yeah, that's a rough issue.
Commissioner Hoffman.
From what I understand, basically it takes away local control and it gives it to the Energy Commission, a 3-member committee, and takes away local control. Now, I'm not opposed to either solar or wind, but it's got to be some local input, where you locate those next to a house or something. But then I sympathize also with the guy who owns large tracts of land, like farmers and stuff, who want to derive an income from that. So they should not be banned, but I still think it should be local control.
Yeah, you're right about the PSC. It has authority to make those decisions, but the bill, and I don't have it before me, so I'd have to take another look at it. There are some off-ramps if locals are opposed and the PSC does grant the application. There are abilities built into the act for appeals and things like that.
Thank you.
And then the only other bill that I wanted to just ask about, I think this is going to become more and more of an issue for us, and I'll get to this in our new business at the end of the meeting. But in the House, it's 4177, which is the museums.
Is what?
The museum, Tyrone Carter's museum bills that are on second reading right now. Just wondering if you had any update from Tyrone. I've interfaced with the museums, but I haven't interfaced with Representative Carter at all.
Is this the bill for the African American Charles Wright Museum?
Yeah, in the historical museum, yeah. The authorization bills.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to Dave Woodward about it, and Dave did not like the way the bill was drafted.
Sure.
And he spoke to the delegation, the legislative state delegation, that kind of put the brakes on. That bill had a hearing, and it wasn't until then that it became clear that Chair was opposed to it because it was taking a lot of our money and it was going to, there's nothing wrong with the 2 museums in the city of Detroit, but his argument was, we have a lot of museums in Oakland County and you're not gonna take our money and not give us anything in return. So I have talked to Representative Carter, have spoken with Representative Carter and with Commissioner Woodward to a great extent. So, my best advice is to continue to share your opinion with your Oakland County delegation, House and Senate members, because this is coming back. And Tyrone Carter is a very strong sponsor and he's a leader in the House. So if he wants it, he's gonna keep pushing. And there's a deal to be cut, I think Dave believes, but they're not gonna ram it down Oakland County's throat. So we kind of put the kibosh on it for the time being.
Sure. Commissioner Hoffman.
It's basically a proposal to raise taxes, right, to support the museums.
Correct.
It's authorizing language so that we can propose to raise taxes. The commission.
Same thing, same
Well,
end result.
But the numbers that they had in the proposed bill were not fair to Oakland County. And that's just how it is.
Thank you.
Anything else for Jim? Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right. Nice to see you all. Have a great holiday season.
You too.
You as well.
Moving right along then, just as an FYI, we're aiming to hit item E at 9:30, so just I think we're on schedule. I would entertain a motion to recommend and forward to finance item B, Parks and Recreation, US, oh my God. These titles are not short. U.S. Housing and Urban Development Economic Development Initiative Community Project Funding Grant for the Oakland County Farmers Market Modernization and Improvement Project. I would entertain that motion. Do I have? Thank you very much, Commissioner Nelson. Seconded by Commissioner Juliet. Melissa.
I'm here to present for Melissa. Sarah Cook Malin from Oakland County Parks.
Hello.
So this is to receive a housing and urban development grant for modernization of the Oakland County Farmers Market here on campus. It will modernize the current building, the parking area, connect it better with additional parking offsite, either at the executive office building or at the road commission parking lot, and provide sustainability updates. So it's $2.269 million that will be spent before 2031.
Questions, comments? My one question is, I know when we were talking about this at the beginning of the year, we were still debating whether or not to keep the farmer's market in that location.
Mm-hmm.
I personally would really like it to not stay in that location,
Yeah.
but is that a moot point at this time?
So right now, I think that all options are still open. The plan is to keep it in the current location as of now, but I think that discussion is still being had about where the eventual location will be. And because the grant period is so long, we can always amend the grant if we decide to move it to a different location.
Okay,
But I think that there's no definitive plans to move it. Right now, the plan is to keep it in place.
Sure, and the grant is not geographically tied.
The grant is currently geographically tied, but we can amend the grant if we decide to move it. Just because we accept the grant now, it doesn't mean that we can't move it later.
Got it. Commissioner Hoffman, I saw your hand.
Well, I was just gonna say, we're spending $4.5 million to make improvements, then we might change our mind after we spend $4.5 million.
No, we wouldn't spend the money until we know where it's going. So we wouldn't put the money into the current location and then move it. We would decide where the eventual market location would be and then put the money into its final home.
I actually think where it's at's a great location.
Commissioner Juliet.
I just wanted to echo my fellow commissioners that I like the location that it's at. It is in my district also, but it's historically been there, and that's where people know, and that is the geographical center of Oakland County. If you were to put a dot, it's actually Crescent Lake and M59 that is
That's
the
right,
exact
where the
center.
flagpole used to be.
So for that reason, my 2 cents counts. I would like to see it where, yes, it's been historically.
Thank you very much. Motion on the table is to recommend to finance. Madam Clerk, would you please prompt that vote?
Mr. Chair, you have 5 yeas or nays?
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Yep, we have the next item as well, so I'll just continue sitting here.
So I would entertain a motion to, I'll recommend to the board now. Item C, Parks and Recreation Cooperative Service Agreement with the United States Department of Agriculture, Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, Wildlife Services for Wildlife Management at Addison Oaks County Park. Moved by Commissioner Nelson, seconded by Commissioner Juliet. Thank you very much. Aye.
Hi. Thank you very much. So this is to provide deer control services at Addison Oaks County Park with USDA Wildlife Services. Obviously, it's a governmental organization. They provide highly controlled control of deer. It is a lethal control option, so they are shooting deer. We have an extreme overpopulation issue of deer in Oakland County, as probably many of you know. Many of the communities within Oakland County have come together to form a deer coalition that Oakland County Parks is part of. One of the recommendations of that coalition is to provide lethal deer control. We want to pilot this at Addison Oaks, a county park, with USDA Wildlife Services because they're very reputable. They have great processes. We work with them on control of mute swans, which is another invasive species. So we have an established track record with them. We know that they provide a quality service. They have the benefit of understanding governmental processes and regulations, but they can also operate outside of normal state of Michigan hunting rules, which is very beneficial that they can hunt at night. They can use other practices that maybe a traditional hunting program wouldn't be able to offer. Because our goal is deer population reduction, they can get us to that goal.
Appreciate that discussion. Questions, comments? Seeing none, the motion on the table is to recommend to the board. Madam Clerk, would you please prompt the vote?
Mr. Chair, you have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Awesome, thank you very much. That moves us on to item D, Human Resources Healthy Workplace Policy. I would entertain a motion to recommend to the board. I'll move it, but I do need a second. Seconded by Commissioner Erickson Galt. Thank you very much. Welcome.
Good morning. My name's April Lynch. I'm Deputy County Executive. I oversee Human Resources. Sunil couldn't be here today because he is at a conference. So I wanted to do a quick introduction to with Heather Van Pooker, who you know is our benefits manager, who's recently transitioned to our Deputy HR Director. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And she's actually been the lead on this new policy. And so from this point, I'm going to give it back to her and be here for any questions or to help support her in this presentation.
Appreciate it, thank you.
We've worked for the past several months with public health, our risk management team, and some of our departments throughout the county to really get our arms around how we might craft a healthy workplace policy that could protect our workplace during the season of heightened contagious illness like flu and COVID-19, and so that is nearly upon us. The research does show that from December to March that things are the most dangerous. And so the policy that you have proposed before you lays out a mechanism where employees that are 100% on-site, in person, would have access to some additional paid time off to observe the isolation guidelines and recommendations that the CDC provides for those who test positive for flu and COVID. And it also envisions encouraging departments that do offer remote work options to allow employees to remain productive at home where that is possible, so as not to lose productivity during these times of a lot of illness. So we've done a lot of work with our departments and with public health to come up with a policy that we believe balances the safety within the workplace against the need for productivity throughout the organization.
Awesome. Questions, comments, concerns? Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know there was a few of us who received an email from an individual who works within the health department in regards to inquiring about why RSV is not included within this policy.
Yeah, the last communication that we have from public health is that it'll be within the next month or so that the testing on that is widely available through public health. And so at this point, flu and COVID-19 is what is available to easily, readily test. This proposed policy does include requirement that a medical facility provide that positive test. We really wanted to balance our department's needs for staffing against, employees' needs to stay home. So where we landed was a clear positive test from a medical facility. And so when public health can bring on board RSV testing, we may be able to modify this to include that. And I think we noted as well that for this first kind of test of the policy, that it would be during this, we could come back for another year and perhaps expand to other illnesses as that becomes more available, the testing and everything else becomes more available.
Thank you. So if I'm understanding, it sounds like there was some consulting with the health department.
Oh, yeah.
But it sounds like because we, as the health department, don't offer testing for RSV, that's why we're not including it. But there's also no denying that RSV is a significant upper respiratory illness, which you can be tested in other facilities outside of Oakland County. So it's not to say that workers here in Oakland County aren't going to be getting RSV.
Right.
But it sounds like because we don't offer the test, we're not including that. That doesn't, can you help me understand that a little bit better? Because RSV is a serious upper respiratory illness, and we know, I work with individuals with disabilities, and a lot of children right now have RSV. So it is something near and dear when I read the email from the individual who works at the health department talking about the seriousness of RSV and knowing that it's on the rise significantly right now, presently. So that's why I'm just trying to understand more why we're not including RSV.
We don't necessarily need to preclude it, but when we were thinking about implementation and fairness among employees, the thought process went like this. If flu and COVID testing is available free of charge to our employees at the public health department, and that is what is needed to access these 3 additional days off, that's where we set the guardrails. If we want to also include RSV, some people would need to then go to a doctor, healthcare facility, incur a copay. There would be a different, hurdle to get over. So it's not that we don't want to include the RSV. It's at this point, the capacity with public health is at flu and COVID. And when they have the capacity for RSV, we can certainly, extend that or do it sooner. It would just, our concern would be that people would feel like I have to go pay for a test. I can't afford to do that. I can't access the days. So we wanted to really be clear and clean about what is covering these 3 additional days.
And we just recently had that conversation with the health department as well, just as this already had been posted regarding RSV. So
Yeah.
we do realize we may need to bring some back.
Okay. Mr. Chair.
Or you can add it.
So that was a conversation that we had, is if we want, we could add that today, or some language that with recommendations from the health department, we can add other illnesses as necessary.
Oh, I love that.
So but it would have to be a recommendation from the health department and approved through us, because we could have a list of 1,000 things right now.
Sure.
So, we could take a look at modifying that a little bit that says, by recommendations from the health department and administration or something to that nature, and then post it and let everybody know, hey, RSV, or if there's some other illness that comes out, we could add to that as well. We just want to make sure that there's control on how and what we do with that. So we can do something as long as we can control it.
Sure. And then
Be okay with that amendment.
So my other question is there a cap on how many times a person can use?
No. As long
There's
as it's a
not.
positive test.
Per instance of positive test.
Okay. And then my last question, Mr. Chair, given that part-time workers are usually not eligible for paid days off, are part-time workers eligible for the 3 days off paid leave time?
No, we had some conversation around that, and the thought was that they could modify schedule to recoup the time that they had missed. That the windows for flu and COVID are, 3 to 4 days on the flu side and up to 5 to isolate for COVID. So depending on how they hit a weekend or their other, scheduled time off, that they could flex to make up their time. So they're not included in this policy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So just to kind of piggyback on Commissioner Nelson's, that I understand no policy is perfect. People do get sick days in terms of using them. To have a positive test, I think is essential to be eligible for these. And people do get sick days beyond that because people do just get sick randomly and can't make it. So that's, I got a call about the remote work policies, a woman that can't work remotely, and she was like, well, how do I don't get to save gas money to drive? So no policy is perfect, and I understand that, but I think that we also have to be mindful that to put guardrails, guidelines, so it doesn't get misused.
Any other discussion? Question on the table then, did you want to wait to recommend to the board until there's an amendment? Okay, should we move to amend then? Go ahead.
I mean, can you amend it here? Because we're knee deep in flu season right now.
Yeah, no, I guess I just would like to know how fast, cause like we expect to be here for at least another hour. So like if we can do that now and then we just revisit this item later in the same meeting, yeah. I just didn't wanna do it without language in front of us.
Sure. No, I think it's important, and I'd love to hear if anybody else has any input into the discussion, but I most certainly hear that it's not realistic to include a list of 20+ illnesses, right? But specifically, given that flu was thrown in there with COVID, I think it's important that we do reflect RSV because it is serious upper respiratory infection that we know is on the rise too. Statistics are there, unfortunately. Just because we as the county yet don't have the ability to test, it doesn't mean that it's not out there infecting individuals.
Well, and I'll say to your point earlier, like not to say anything about RSV, but I really enjoy permissive language that defers to our expert leaders of departments, that says if you, in consultation with the health department, see a need to do something, like you have the discretion to do that. I like that kind of language just generally, because I think that frees up our experts to do what they're best at. So that's kind of the language that I would prefer to see. But any other discussion? Kristen, is that a formal motion to amend then? Or a formal motion?
I'm not sure on the language that I would be comfortable with, just in light of what we just talked about and just with the feedback, so I don't know what is the best way to proceed, really.
Interesting. I'll move to amend that. Can we draft up something real quick?
We can stay and help.
Okay, I would appreciate that. Yeah, I'll move to amend that we draft language similar to the vibe that we just discussed, supported by Commissioner Woodward. All those in favor, please say aye. Or could you please prompt that one?
Can we just clarify that?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
amend
To
Are we just
Include
including
language.
RSV?
giving to give latitude to the health department and HR to work together. I don't know.
With the recommendation of the health department
To-
upon approval of the executive office or HR.
RSV,
I bet they can huddle and write that up in 10 minutes.
Yep, okay.
I don't know if I want to include specifically RSV, because like, what if someone else, something, I don't know.
I think it's important, otherwise you're opening it up to anybody that's ill and they already have sick day.
No, it would require the health department to say, yes, this is approved for this period of time or in this moment.
So they'll review each illness for each person to see if it's approved?
No, because they would still have to do all the same testing in-house and everything. It's just like in the event that the health department has the capacity to do RSV testing or anything, or I don't know, swine flu testing, if that comes back. Then with the working together with HR, you guys could enact that policy without coming back to Lago for express written consent to do that again, right?
Yes, can I provide some?
Please do.
I know. I think there's a couple things we need to do. I think we should go ahead and just add RSV so that it's there, because that way we can communicate that appropriately, as well as that we'll put some language in here that the with recommendation of the health department and HR, other illnesses may be added to, we'll do something like that, but that would be countywide, not per person. So for instance, 4 years ago, we didn't know anything about COVID. There could be something that comes out 2 months from now that we had no idea that's highly contagious and highly dangerous, right? It's like, this doesn't include strep throat, this doesn't include a cold, this doesn't include the stomach flu. So those don't typically cause as much harm as the flu, the new strains of the flu and COVID and RSV do. So we could do something like that. So it's not per person, it says we could always add to the list of those 3 sick days as needed with the consultation of the health department.
Commissioner Joy.
I understand that and that makes sense. I guess I still would like it to come back to Lago for oversight.
Okay,
So that's my opinion.
yes, that's fair.
Okay, we could get the amended policy by December 7th to vote on it at full board. If we make amendments now, we can get that revised language by December 7th.
Do you know? I bet we can write this up right now.
Yeah, I mean, the amendment, but then the updated policy with these changes in it will also have by December 7th.
We're about to do that.
Yeah, I would like to just like punt this item till later on in today's agenda. Well,
Once we make this amendment,
Yeah.
the amendment will be the change of the policy. And the
Right, I'm
resolution.
just saying, we'll get the updated policy document to review with these amendments in it. We're making an amendment to change, are we changing the policy document today?
just want to, yeah.
So if we add RSV today, that's very simple. And if there's anything new beyond that, it's another pandemic anyway, that we could come back. And that makes it easier for everybody. We can just literally add RSV to that. And then we're sunsetting this April 1st. So when we come back with it again, then we can add that potential language that would be that we'd have, we can change it up as needed.
Okay.
Would that be okay?
Motion to postpone the item later on.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, real quick, because I think we can do this quickly now. I'm going to rescind my previous motion.
Okay.
I'm going to also move to simply add RSV. And we can finagle with language later, but simply add RSV. Do I have support?
It can't be
So Commissioner Erickson Galt supports. Could you please prompt that amendment?
Okay.
And the guy that contacted me was very encouraging. He said, MDOT is not applying for the money. Big organizations, issues here. And this one is not one.
Okay, so
He said something. Do something. And because we have so many deer, and people get killed sometimes in different situations with deer.
I appreciate everyone's flexibility.
So I'm working on that. I learned
Yes.
Bridges. There's 10 basic bridges. The one type of bridge that cannot be used in Michigan is a truss bridge because it's probably one of the oldest style bridges.
I'm gonna do a voice vote because it's not coming through to me,
It would
so,
be a cataclysmic
Woodward,
disaster.
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Joliet,
Yes.
So
Nelson,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
I will
Galt?
put up. Yes, totally acceptable.
Mr. Chair, you have 7 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Motion on the table is to recommend to the board. Can you prompt that one?
Stanchions.
Is amended?
Yeah, as amended.
Okay.
The distance across the road is roughly 16 feet away. So figure a 3-lane road, 16 times 6 in both directions.
Joliet,
Yes.
You'd have a
Nelson?
stanchion on
Yes.
Hoffman,
the
Yes.
other side.
Lubes,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yeah.
Galt, Yes. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 7 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you all, and thank you all.
Thank you, appreciate this, thank you.
All right, so we're just 15 minutes late. So here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna whip through these interviews. We do not have time to discuss after each individual interview. The interviews will be 5 minutes long. We can discuss that building ones after all building ones, and we can discuss Parks and Rec after all the Parks and Rec ones. Sound good? Cool. Moving on then, I guess to open this section, I would entertain a motion to report to the board, item E. Do I,
Well, we can't really do it.
oh, I don't need to do the open,
No, because these will be actually recommended.
okay, I appreciate that. We'll just start with Stephen Wright then. He's scheduled for 9:30. Stephen Wright. Yes.
In past, when we've had interviews, we usually close the doors out of privacy for the.
Sure.
I don't know if we. And we turned off the recording. We don't record the interview.
We don't.
In the past, we have it. Or council, that was it.
We can't do that. Okay.
We can't, we were told by corp counselors we can't what?
We can't turn the cameras off because it would appear as a closed session.
Oh.
That's not true. That's not true. The camera is not, you can't close the doors.
We can't close the doors.
You can't close the doors,
We
but
can.
I think we can close.
We did both last time.
Yeah, you can't close, so closing the doors makes it a closed meeting. It clearly is an open meeting, but we don't have to have the camera on.
It's recommended from, that.
I get the recommendation. But I
What are we
don't,
doing?
so I guess the question is what are people comfortable with? This is more of like a perception issue, but I guess out of respect for the people we wanna come and interview, we can do, there's no legal requirement that the meetings have, I apologize, guys, I had dental and wisdom teeth removed, so like, I'm a little mumbled.
And then in addition to the bridge.
I guess I don't know what was conveyed to the people coming forward, that they would be recorded and this would be publicly available and all of that stuff, or did we communicate that one way or another? But you're not, the law does, Open Meetings Act does not require every meeting be recorded.
Correct, so, yeah, that was Nicole's.
Right, I mean, it will be reflected in the minute that an interview happened. This is a meeting that was lawfully posted. Anyone from the public was here, has to be allowed an ability to come to the meeting, but it's not required to be.
I said you put up a sign
Recorded.
that says animals still here.
So,
Do you want
whatever
to
the-
stop recording then?
Well,
No, Commissioner.
question. So if that's a recommendation of Corporation Counsel, I mean, is that something that we should consider? I mean, they are legal counsel, right? And that's my concern, if there's,
And they have shown.
even though we might have done it one way, but if my stance is if we're being told a recommendation from legal counsel, I think we should consider the legal recommendation, for sure. I don't wanna,
Let's
I
get
don't
Nic-
wanna dismiss the legal recommendation
let's
of
get
Open
Nicole up on
Meetings
the
Act.
screen, how about that?
Do I?
We'll get Nicole up on the screen.
Yeah, I guess I don't know, speaking personally, I feel, I'm ambivalent about recording. I have no problem if we live stream, and I have no problem if the door stays open. I don't know what's happened in the past, but like, I have no problem with that.
So we did it from like a confidentiality of like individuals coming in and interviewing without other interview applicants.
Sure, I get it.
Being a part of others, right?
Sure.
So I understand the concept of why cameras would be off and things like that for sure. My biggest concern is just from a transparency Open Meetings Act perspective, if legal has provided a suggestion recommendation, I think it's important that's
That's their job.
right, that is considered. And I do feel confident that if we can get Nicole on to help, because I know this has always been a little gray area, for sure. But it sounds like if there's been an update and a legal recommendation has been made, I think there's something said to that.
Commissioner Woodward, followed by Commissioner Hoffman.
The corporate counsel's recommendation to leave it on?
To leave it on.
Okay, I have a question.
So wait, there is no legal memo to that effect, I think it was verbally
Right,
communicated.
no, I get it.
Right.
Okay, the first person applying works for Oakland County,
So,
right?
and
Yeah, that was brought
Is
up.
there any kind of conflict or anything for the building authority?
being used.
Oh, we didn't talk about conflicts for the building. We did extensively about Parks and Rec.
We did about Parks and Rec, but not here.
We just kind of
He works
glossed
for
over
Oakland
this
County.
for.
No, we didn't really spend a lot of time on that.
We'll get an answer to that one too.
Yeah, I would think if it was.
Does the packet have the building authority bylaws attached?
No.
Okay, good, I find, what's that?
I can access them.
Yeah, we didn't discuss the building authority because we just invited all of them.
Yeah. 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 Right, that's what I say.
I really thought that.
I'm fine with live streaming, we're just not recording it.
Yeah, I think that's a happy medium.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, sure. Eddie said the call of the chair.
Okay, I'm gonna take a recess.
We're on recess.
Yes.
Okay. That way.
Your camera's still on.
They are.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioners Loops? Here. Nelson? Here. Hoffman?
Present.
Booth? Harrison Galt?
Yes.
Woodward as ex officio? Julia?
Present.
Johnson?
Present.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. All right, discussion is over how we want to proceed. Do I have anyone wanting to talk? Also, we've got council on. Nicole, do you want to talk first? I can let you talk first and then we can ask you questions.
Good morning. Sorry, I was dealing with my microphone because I was not prepared for hopping onto your guys' meeting. But my understanding is you guys are having a question of whether to shut off the video recording during the interview session, during the open meeting. Is that the question?
Correct, yes. And
Yes.
the question is it legal to or not?
Okay, right now, there's nothing in the law that definitively answers that question. There's nothing that compels you to do it. So it's probably legal because there's no case law that says do not do this. The whole point of the Open Meetings Act is, for transparency in government. And so, on the one hand, I'm going to tell you both the arguments, and then at this point, the committee can make a policy choice. So on the one hand, you are providing filming and broadcasting of that filming as a courtesy to members of your public. And so it could be construed, and there could be an argument from one of the members of the public that you have violated Open Meetings Act by, without notice, not offering the broadcasting of a recording for an otherwise open meeting, because that's been your past precedent in general for meetings. However, it's my understanding that the board in the past has always kind of not recorded these meetings. So that would be the counter argument to the past precedent. It would be what we call in front of the court a matter of a case of first impression. And then they would decide if, interpreting the Open Meetings Act, we at this point in 2023 with technology, because it takes a while for the law to catch up to technology, we have an obligation to continue broadcasting all parts of an open meeting. So that's the first argument. The counter argument to that is there's nothing in the Open Meetings Act that definitively or expressly requires us to do this. We have not done this in the past. And so it's reasonable for the board to just assume past practice and say this is how we've always done it. We want to keep the candidates at ease and attract talented candidates, and they might be hesitant if they knew that their interview would be broadcasted. And so that would be the justification. So again, there's nothing to definitively say one way or the other on the law. I think you're legally justified doing both, and that's why at this point it's a policy choice for the committee members.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman.
What about the conflict of interest for a building authority member who works for Oakland County?
Oh, I actually have that answer for you.
Right.
We were looking both up at the same time.
Staff just got it.
Got the
Yes.
answer.
It's coming around.
Good.
So to Commissioner Hoffman's question on a potential conflict of interest, for the Articles of Incorporation for the Building Authority, Article 5, Section 3, the only people who are not eligible are those of us around the table and our fellow commissioners. So it's
And the
another
rationale for that is that the action of the building authority has to come with the approval of the Board of Commissioners. That's why a commissioner cannot sit on the building authority.
But an employee's okay.
There is no prohibition according to the articles that we created.
So I think it feels kind of similar. It's a perception versus letter of the law kind of a thing. Any other questions for, Nicole, yeah, go ahead.
If this committee would like, while you're deciding the videotaping, I can quickly research the employee question and report back. I'll just shut my camera off.
Yes, and page 4 of 7 of the building authority articles of incorporation under Article 5. I think it's pretty specific in who can be on the commission, but I mean, I don't know if there's any other arching policies or what.
Okay,
So, looking into that would be helpful as well.
okay, I'll start doing that.
But while she's doing that, I do want to make a decision on this. So any discussion on the camera question?
I don't have any problem shutting them off, only from the standpoint somebody might be hesitant about it, doing an interview and then it's going viral.
So I'll go back to what I said before. I think that we should live stream it for transparency, but I would not record it.
The technical workaround, because I did ask this question, we're going to have to, I don't know if you have to do a separate stream, but we'll post it and we would just ask Postfacto remove the posting and then repost a third thing. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other discussion? No other discussion. So who wants to do what then, I guess?
You make the call.
Oh my God. I don't mind everything being live and recorded either. I really don't, but I'm also the new kid on the block and I don't want to screw with a decades old upstanding policy. All right, it's good. They're just gonna be very open. If no one pushes back, they're just gonna be very open. All right, Luke then is our first interview. We're quite a bit behind.
Stephen Wright.
Oh, sorry, Stephen. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong thing.
You can have a student.
I guess eligibility.
Here, down here is the very head.
That's all we put in there.
And I apologize for being late and we'll try to keep everything to 5 minutes also. Thank you so much for being here. Does anyone have questions for Stephen? Get my card around. Let's hear your hand up.
Can we hear a little bit about his background and little
After you.
your interest?
I'm have a degree in accounting from Walsh County, and I worked in public accounting for a period of time, about an 8-year time frame. In between, I had a painting and decorating corporation with like 12 people that worked for me. And I had that all the way up until I came to the county. And I came to the county in the painting division and then got promoted up to maintenance supervisor, where I am currently at FM&O. I have the EOB building, the Public Work building, the Oak Point building, all of Children's Village, Patrol, the credit union, and a couple other buildings. But I'm in charge of all of them, and I have my building operator people at each building. And I'm really involved in everything in each building that would be going on.
Any other questions? Mr.
All
Woodward.
right, so interest in being on the building authority, I think you understand the full scope and the focus of what the building authority does. What motivates you to be part of that?
Well, I caught it on LinkedIn, which I look at, periodically. And, I like giving back to the community. I do the Adopt a Highway a lot in the fall every year. And, and Habitat for Humanity, Gleaner. I like to donate my time, and it looked very appealing to what I'm doing to be involved in it.
And one follow-up question. So arguably one of the largest projects that this county is going to be undertaking, aside from the other things that the building authority approves bonds for, recommendation to the full body here, is our new downtown Pontiac complex that's moving forward. And so can you speak to just broadly about your support for that project? Because this body will be absolutely critical to completing what you
I'm actually really looking forward to it. Like I told you, I'm in charge of EOB right now, and potentially if I keep doing the job I'm at, I may potentially get that new building. I've walked through it when we had the big walkthrough A lot of potential, I think, a lot of work to be done. But I'm hyped for it.
Got any other questions? Technical question, the building authority meets every second Wednesday of the month at 9 a.m. Is that okay and good for you?
Yeah, that'll work.
Questions? All right, well, I really appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, our second is Luke Donahue. Hello. Luke, welcome. You'll have 5 minutes. And apologies for being so very, very late. Any questions for Luke? Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest on wanting to sit on this board?
Sure. So I have been an Oklahoma County resident since 2016. I moved back to the state from Michigan. I've been working with JD Power for the last 5 years in a data and analytics role, doing a ton of Excel work and building up models and financial forecasts. I think there's a lot of benefit to that I can bring to this commission as far as being able to analyze upcoming projects and to be able to give some of that skill set back to the community, make sure that we're in an area that really the funds that we're asking for some of these projects are spent, and at least we've thought them through. I got raising a family here, so 2 kids here. My wife are here. We're just on the road in Waterford. And currently in the process of starting a business, Honey Done, that's focused on property management for homeowners. So helping individual homeowners repair, improve, and maintain their homes, and being that trusted resource for them.
Thank you.
Commissioner Juliet.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about a project that you did that was larger in scope? We are taking on as a county, Pontiac, renovations of quite a few buildings. Have you ever done anything in this type of scope?
So it's been quite a while on the construction management side specifically. That's what I did during my undergrad to pay for school. I worked with Beal Properties out of Ann Arbor. And they had at the time about 180 properties that we had just acquired through bankruptcy to renovate and fix those up. That involved basically putting together project trackers, understanding which contractors, subcontractors are coming in at what points in time. But it has been several years since I worked in that area, specifically on the construction management. However, it is one of the ways that with the new startup that I'm working on, I'm looking to sharpen those skill sets back up.
Along the same point on that, Commissioner Juliet, I mentioned, this project we're about to undertake will arguably be the biggest physical building project that the county's ever taken. That is not just the building, but in construction of a new parking structure, but complete placemaking in the southern portion of the downtown area of Pontiac. In general, I don't know how much you know about the project, but are you supportive of that project? Because this building authority will be tasked by figuring out how to get the resources necessary to make that project go.
So I would probably withhold support until I learn more about the use case, who's going to be there, what the intended goal and communities that you're looking to build. So in general, I am for more investment in our communities and looking for ways to create new construction and new opportunities for folks to move in. However, without knowing all the details, I wouldn't be able to really throw support behind it.
Technical question for you. The building authority meets every second Wednesday at 9 a.m. Is that all right and good for you? Any other questions for me? Appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks.
And next we'll have Mindy Fernandez, who is joining us virtually. She's in the lobby.
He's reading a lot.
Oh.
All right, there she is. Welcome, Mindy. You have 5 minutes. Any questions for Mindy? Thank you so much for being here. Commissioner Nelson, should I preempt your question?
Oh, sure. Good morning. Mindy, could you give us a little bit of background about yourself and your interest in seeking a role on this board? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, any questions? Commissioner Hoffman?
No, go ahead.
No, Commissioner Woodland?
Hey, Mindy, Dave here. And I've asked this of the other applicants. One of the biggest projects that we're about to undertake, arguably one of the largest in county history, is the new downtown Pontiac County Complex, the redevelopment of the two towers, the Phoenix Center, placemaking, I mean, you name it, it's part of this project. And so given that this board particularly is going to play a very critical role in helping secure the financial resources necessary to pull all those pieces together, what is your general thoughts about that project? Like, are you supportive of it?
Oh, we love bosses like that. Any other questions for Mindy? Seeing none, Mindy, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Folks, that concludes our building authority, unless Christine is here. Christine's not here? No. Okay, got it. All right, so that concludes our building authority. Procedurally, we should take action here, but I'm also cognizant that we're still 20 minutes behind on our parks stuff. So do you all mind if we just keep going with interviews and then we can do all of our discussing later?
Yes,
because we're still behind? Okay, cool. So moving right along to our Parks and Recreation then, and I appreciate all of you for your flexibility. Our first interview for Parks and Recreation is Lola Banks. Hello, Lola. You'll be given 5 minutes. Any questions to start us off? Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Lola. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest on seeking a position on this board?
Sure. So my name is Lola Banks. I work at Oakland Community College. I work in our dual enrollment and K-12 partnerships. I'm also a resident of Oak Park. I've lived in Oak Park for about 7 years now, and in Oakland County about 10 years. I have a family. I have 2 small children that we enjoy being involved in recreational activities in the community, utilizing the parks, things like that. I recently participated in Leadership Oakland through Oakland County, and I was really exposed to a lot of to more within the county. We actually had a government session. Mr. Woodward actually presented and talked a little bit about getting involved in local government. And so I saw this opportunity and thought it would be a great opportunity for me to kind of stay connected to the community, really utilize my skills in education and, you know, creating educational and recreational experiences that can create learning experiences for kids in our community. I can think about a lot of the youth, especially with the effects of the pandemic, have really been impacted. And I know how great utilizing parks and being involved in opportunities with recreation can really, I think could be really helpful. And I'd love to be able to be involved in that capacity, so.
Excellent, thank you.
Well, I'll do a technical question to give my fellow commissioners some time. The Parks and Recreation Commission meets every first Wednesday of every month at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Is that good for you?
Yes, I saw that, and that will work for me. Yes.
Any other questions for Commissioner Woodward?
Just throw out there, good to see you again. I mean, if you were to be appointed, is there one or two things that you would like to see parks doing more, better, new, going forward? Share me your vision of your leadership.
So one of the things that I know that's important to the, that's a part of the mission of the parks is really DEIJ component. I do think that within some of the parks in my community, I see opportunities for improvements, but also for more people to utilize them. I think a lot of people don't take advantage or know about all of the great opportunities that exist within our recreation centers. And I'd love to see a more, I guess, representative, let me think of the word, representative participation in some of the opportunities that exist within the county. That would be one thing that would be really important to me. I guess the other piece would be improving, you know, some of the recreational spaces and providing just making sure, like, I don't know, I've traveled throughout Oakland County, and I can kind of see somewhat some disparities across our county. I'd love to see it be a bit more equitable and just overall inclusive use. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lola. Appreciate it.
Thank you all for your time.
Our next interview is Lance Stokes. Thanks, Lola. Hello.
Thanks.
Welcome, Lance.
Thank you.
You will have 5 minutes.
Alright.
And our apologies for being so belated today. 5 minutes. This is Lance. Any questions? Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Good morning, Lance.
Good morning.
I know you're seeking a reappointment to the Parks and Rec Commission. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself. We've got some new faces around the table this time, and your interest on continuing to sit on the Parks and Rec Commission.
Sure. First of all, I have been on the Parks and Rec Commission and really enjoy it. And I feel I've made positive contributions, and I certainly hopeful that I can continue to make those positive contributions. My background is environmental. I hold a doctorate, a master's degree, and a bachelor's degree. And most recently, I'm pleased to tell you, I got a new bachelor's degree. I attended university, and I got a bachelor's degree in environmental sustainability. So that was, I did it on the internet, which was a super challenge. And they don't have holidays like regular college. There's no days off. It's 7 days a week. That week finishes, boom, you go to the next week. So I made Dean's List, and I was inducted into an honor society, Omega Nu Lambda. So when I decided to walk with my class in January. I look forward to that. But with my background, I feel I make contributions, always looking for ways to improve our parks, to make them more interesting. My latest interest is the pursuit of an overpass park, or a park over roads, and specifically for what? Specifically to prevent accidents. Michigan has some 50,000 deer are killed in road accidents. And of those accidents, the majority take place in Oakland County. And in addition to animals being killed, people are also killed, unfortunately. Sometimes those deer go right through the windshield, and they've been known to kick the passengers to death. There is, I thought of this as a result of driving Interstate 696 since October of 2021. I do that run just about every day. And when I discovered there are parks, 3 parks over that interstate between Southfield and Oak Park. And I said, interesting, if you can have a park, and that's a park for people, there's no vehicles allowed in there. But if you can have parks over an intersection, it would be, why not have a park for animals to cross highways and roadways? And interestingly enough, there's $350 million that the government, US government has assigned. So I got in touch with the Michigan Department of Transportation to see what they thought of it. And they're not going after that $350 million, but they certainly encourage me to. So I'm hopeful that as a park, and maybe some parks, as a part of Oakland County Parks, it's a different kind of park, but it's a park, nevertheless, that is needed. There's a need, there's money to accomplish it. So that's one interest that I'm pursuing.
Thank you. And any other
If
questions?
you want to ask questions, please feel free to. I've been talking for over my 5 minutes, I'm sure.
I don't know if you remember, but one year Commissioner Nelson and I walked the park trail with you. So I can vouch for your enthusiasm about parks and the marvelous work you have done and the experience you have. So thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, Juliet.
I don't know if this could be a quick answer, but you talked about you've made many contributions since you've been on the board. Can you talk about one that's been implemented that you made?
I have been active in the environmental committee and on the Parks and Recs. The contribution that I've made there's a collection of them. I'm trying to think of one specific one that jumps out, like the one I just explained that I'm looking at and thinking back in the past of what, but certainly in participating in the light show in the park, supporting that, supporting the acquisition of some of the municipal parks that have kind of waned, but because Oakland County has joined to bring them up to speed to improve those parks, and been very supportive in doing that, supportive in trying to bring pickleball into our parks. And because I think eventually those pickleball courts are going to be busy courts, money generators for activities. So
thank you.
Thank you. And our time's up today. So thank you very much, Lance. Appreciate you coming in.
Okay, thank you for having me. Appreciate it, and appreciate the opportunity to, again, if you vote for me, to be a continued Oakland County Parks and Recs Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good question. Glad you asked that. Next up is Chanel. Hello. Apologies for being so late. If you'll make your way to the head of the table, you'll have 5 minutes altogether.
Okay,
Thank you for being with us.
thanks for having me.
All right, any questions for Chanel? Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Chanel.
Good morning.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest on wanting to sit on the Parks and Rec Commission?
Sure. A little bit introvert, so talking about myself is always interesting. Well, I'm a lifelong resident of Pontiac and obviously Oakland County. I'm married, I have 3 children. I'm an entrepreneur and leader within our city. And let's see, I went to school in Michigan, so my bachelor's degree is from Michigan State, my master's degree is from the University of Michigan. From an entrepreneurial standpoint, I own a recycling company with my husband. So I've been doing that full time since 2019. We also sit on a couple other boards. So most recently, was elected to the Pontiac Public Library Board. I served on that board for about a year. And then I sit on a number of other boards throughout the city. In 2020, my husband and I started a nonprofit organization focused on improving educational outcomes for youth in Pontiac. So I spent a lot of time working on that, making sure that children in our community read at grade level by the time they should. Right now, only 12 to 15% are reading at grade level by 3rd grade. So that's something I'm passionate about. For the Parks Commission, I was asked to consider being on a commission to make sure that Pontiac had proper representation. So that's very near and dear to my heart. I want to make sure that whether it's Pontiac or any other community, because I have family all over Oakland County, that there's a voice for those that don't get to attend the meetings, don't get to really speak up and understand what beautiful parks and resources are available to them throughout the county. So that's one of the reasons that I chose to run or to participate.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Woodward? Oh, Commissioner Joliet.
Oh, no, go ahead. Woodward, go ahead.
So, I mean, one thing I'm very excited about and have had opportunities to see the improvement of late is the new Pontiac Oaks partnership. Can you talk about that? I mean, from a benefit, I mean, it's a balance of making sure that we're investing in locations, particularly our urban cores where people are concentrated. But it's also a demonstration that when we do make the right type of public investment, we can dramatically improve a space for people, visitors, families to enjoy. So can you talk a little bit about your thoughts on that?
So I have served on the board of the Friends of Pontiac Parks for a couple of years now. And I know how much the city has struggled to maintain parks for our residents. So to have this partnership come into play where we can see a really quick or immediate investment and some improvements to one of our most beautiful parks, I'm really excited about it because it opens up a world of opportunity for children and families to be able to enjoy that park, have parks with working bathrooms and things like that. I mean, I have 2 teenagers now and 1 small child, and to be able to have access to that where I can take them, we can spend a lot of time there and I don't have to worry about where they're gonna go to the bathroom. And then also the amenities, like just having amenities that we don't typically have in our other parks is so important. So we don't have to go out of our city to enjoy that. It's right there.
Commissioner Joliet.
Hi, thank you. When we had our last meeting, Administration Parks and Rec highlighted that they would like to see somebody with HR background because employment is such a challenging task this environment. And I see here that you did talent acquisition, that was prior to COVID. Do you have any ideas that you would be able to draw from that position in terms of getting employees? A lot of parks haven't been able to open, not a lot, but a number of them because of employment challenges.
Yeah, I actually have over 3 decades of HR experience in talent acquisition. I ran talent acquisition for what used to be our powertrain. So we always look for hard to find talent. And I know that COVID has made things very challenging, but I do have a lot of ideas about that. That's one of the things that I've kind of focused on in our nonprofit that I help run is how to create talent pipelines for the most critical jobs. And obviously parks and recs, not many people think about that, but it is critical. So yes, I have a lot of ideas on how to improve that pipeline of talent for those types of roles.
I appreciate it. We're out of time, but one technical question for you, if I didn't ask it. The Parks and Rec Commission meets every first Wednesday of every month at 2:00 in the afternoon. Is that good and okay for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
All with that, then
In between, like, building a pipeline of young people and running the business and everything.
Pick it up and we'll get it handled. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Our next interview is Andrea LaFontaine. Hello, if you'll just make your way to the head of the table. Apologies for being late. You'll have 5 minutes altogether. Thank you for being here. Any questions, Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Andrea. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know you're seeking a reappointment on the Parks and Rec Board, but could you share your interest in continuing to pursue being on the board?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Andrea. I live in Birmingham. I'm a resident of Oakland County since 2016-ish. Passionate about outdoor recreation, parks, trails, you name it, everything outdoors. I work for Michigan Trails and Greenways Alliance. I've been there since 2018. Started out as a consultant. I've been their executive director since 2020. So learning to manage a nonprofit right when COVID hit was a lot of fun, but super important space that we operate in. After 2020, with the influx of users outside using parks and trails, kind of just really forced this need for more and better parks and trails throughout the state of Michigan. So super passionate, proud to be from Oakland County with Oakland County Parks. I will say I work with the director of M Parks pretty closely, and Oakland County is known throughout the state for really having its act together and being kind of like this, like just above all the rest in the park space.
Thank you.
Commissioner Juliet.
I thank you. I asked the other incumbent this also. So since you've been on the board, can you talk about any contributions or support that you've had that you've given to the parks as utilizing your position on the board?
Yeah, as of lately, I think showing up, because I feel like we've been just at quorum for what quorum allows at our meetings. So I think that's super important. But taking tough votes, and I think being a good listener as well, right? It's not fun to have to spend millions on upgrading campground infrastructure or paving a parking lot, but all of those pieces really play into the user experience and getting Oakland County residents to really appreciate the parks that we have. So I have no problem making those motions and supporting those, because I know that's just one piece of the greater picture of Oakland County Parks. Aside from that, just really listening to all sides of an issue. We recently had some conversation about deer management issues, right? Recognizing it is a problem. How do we deal with it? What's the best path forward? And having an open mind, right? Looking at things objectively and trying to understand, recognizing that I have a role as a citizen, but also to listen to other citizens and what they have to say relative to Oakland County Parks.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Woodward.
Well, I'm gonna add to, Andrea's leadership on this board has been nothing short than amazing. So in terms, not just understanding, and I was gonna bring up the millage because you were there, and it wasn't, your leadership was necessary to get the millage on the ballot, to get recognized. I would like to run the parks for free. But when you defer maintenance of over $20 million, I think that you've got to find a way to pay for it. And so your leadership there, your leadership on pushing us to the acquisition of the new land in Troy, which I know that you were a very strong advocate for, and having to marshal the body forward and into that. So, I mean, I think your experience, I mean, working in trails and with the Greenway, I mean, network is just absolutely phenomenal. So, I'm a fan and continue to support you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you very much. I presume you'll continue to be able to go to the meetings that you've been going to, so I'll
Yes,
refrain from my
yeah.
one boring question.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of
Does
course.
Anybody have like any big vision for what they hope to see with the future of Oakland County Parks?
I'll take chair's prerogative. I have no park in my district at all, and I would like some sort of, and this is not a slam. Chris and I have had good conversations, and I've engaged with both of I have a new mayor in Auburn Hills now, but Rochester Hills is supportive about working toward something. But yeah, in Oakland Township, in Rochester Hills, and in Auburn Hills, anything would be nice.
You have Dinosaur Hill.
That is a city park.
Or an awesome partnership with that park. This would also help me with another partnership.
So that's my one thing, but anyone else have anything? Commissioner Woodward.
I mean, throughout this, I know that this has been a conversation of parts, and I apologize. I just had some teeth extracted, so if I sound funny. But I don't think we are marshaling, capturing is probably the right word, our aquatic water areas. So when we think of trails, I mean, even in my own brain, I think using my feet to walk the trails, but had an opportunity with some of the folks at Parks to kayak down some of the waterways. The Pontiac Oaks development, it's an amazing opportunity. That's all right. To figure out how to connect our aquatic, particularly these passive kayaking and non-motorized aquatic paths to connect all the amazing lakes that are connectable and build the infrastructure to make it easier for people to access them, I think would be very awesome over the next decade.
I'll piggyback on that because what I don't have in county parks, I make up for in rivers and trails along rivers. And horseback riding is prevalent. We have like every method of transportation, non-motorized transportation imaginable. And I spent my entire life on Pine Creek and Clinton River trails. And I have always thought how fun it would be to go down the river instead of the actual old railway. So that would be fun. But anyway.
And then the last thing I want to say, thank you for your leadership of helping connect the trailway through Pontiac. That's going to allow someone to travel with me to Lake Michigan one day.
Yeah, you'll be able to go from South Haven to Port Huron.
It's pretty
A little
exciting.
navigating through Calhoun County.
Yeah.
It's a little tough there, but yeah, that was a critical piece. So
Exciting. Thank you for your time.
yeah, thank you all.
Our next interview is Annette. Hello, Annette.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. You'll have 5 minutes altogether. Many apologies for how late we are, but 5 minutes will start now. Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you. Good morning, Annette.
Good morning.
Thank you for your interest in sitting on the Parks and Rec Board. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your desire to want to be a part of the Parks and Rec Commission?
First off, I used to sit on the Springfield Township Parks and Commission for about 6 years. And then I resigned when I went back and got my master's degree. But my background is in horticulture and landscape, both in design and sales. Done plan review, ordinance enforcement when I worked with the city of Troy. Did bid process, grant writing, gypsy moth surveying, and I did quite a bit of play structure designs while I was there. When I went back to school, I had young children at the time. And then I worked as a reading aide for 3 years. After that, I went back and I got my teaching certificate. And I taught science and math, basically an earth and environmental science curriculum to 8th graders, middle school. while in the Beecher School District, which is up in the outside of the Flint area, and I was there for 11 years. I did some after-school programs, Toy Challenge, which was a Sally Ride program where half of your team had to be girls. My first year out, we ended up going to semifinals. So I took my kids from Beecher that had never left Flint on an airplane to Raleigh, Durham over Mother's Day weekend. Yes, it was interesting. I also planned field trips. We had a few that were outside of state, but when we were told we could no longer do that, the ones that I usually planned for my kids included always having good food, because there's always a shortage of food in a Title I district. We did things like taking a schooner out on Saginaw Bay, and when we got out there, it was like your Sea Grant programs underneath, but the kids had to hoist the sails and, you know, maneuver the boat, and the captain was a former Marine. They really liked that. And then after that, we went to Frankenmuth, and I got them all you can eat. They enjoyed that. I think my biggest achievement while at Beecher is basically I was very instrumental in changing the culture of the school on the last day. Mind you, when I first started, they pulled the fire alarm. We all went out, were told to run back in, lock the doors, and the kids just do what the kids would do. There are huge water balloon fights with chlorine, bleach, and urine. News vans used to be camped out front. Well, I got to talking, and I worked with the parent facilitator, and he and I got together. The parent group wanted to have a barbecue on the last day, and I said, we need an 8th grade graduation, because I was in a 7-12 building. So between he and I, we worked it out. So my kids went through graduation and then went out on the front lawn with all the parents there, and they had a barbecue with, you know, hamburgers and hot dogs and all of that. And it was actually so gratifying, because the kids were snapping pictures with their friends like your kids would do or my kids would do. But this was in a very, very depressed area economically. So it was just really, really something. And because of the dropout rate, this may have been the graduation for many of the kids that they would ever experience. Parents would come, pictures across the stage, the whole thing. I taught a hands-on lab-based class. Question?
Yeah, Commissioner Juliet, sorry.
Thank you. Well, just trying to be cognizant of time. Wanted to make sure that I have just one question for you. I mentioned to the other candidates, Parks and Rec administration said that it would be nice to have somebody that either had HR experience or education experiences that they're trying to bridge programs or get involved with the schools. Can you talk, I see here that you do have quite a extensive education background, a little bit how you could bring that to the board in terms of connecting with the schools within Oakland County and the parks.
Okay, when I was on Springfield Township, right as I resigned, they were talking about partnering with local school districts, because the school districts had the facilities and we had the programming. I don't know what went on beyond that, because I went back for my master's. But Parks and Recreation usually works with a variety of age groups. They, you know, you've got your community centers, you've got your seniors, you've got your, you know, the tots and all that. Whoops. But I think bringing programs, I think we're going to have to look at, did you want these to be recreational programs, or did you want them to be more education-based? And if they need to be education-based, they have to align with the benchmarks that teachers are required to teach to. Because as a teacher, I did not want to go on a field trip that I had to go through all that information, find the benchmarks, do it. I'm sorry, but as a teacher, you work all the time during the school year. So if the benchmarks were aligned, and if they were saying, okay, you've got your social studies, you've got your English language arts, you've got your science, you've got your math, and they were all there, and the teachers had that at their disposal, then you could build the momentum by going to the grounds root, you know, at the teacher level.
Okay, thank you.
Our time has expired, so one technical question for you
Yes,
real
sir.
quick. Parks and Rec Commission meets every first Wednesday of every month at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Okay.
Does that time work well?
Yes, when I'm not doing things, I work at Fleur Detroit, just down the road, about 10 minutes, so it's real close.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
And
And that concludes our. That was never.
I think we have Deborah Macon.
Oh my gosh, no, thank you very,
yes.
sorry. Deborah, welcome, thank you. Got my- Except with my notes.
Hello.
So sorry for being so late. You'll have 5 minutes altogether and
Problem.
our 5 minutes will start now. Commissioner Nelson.
Good morning, Deborah.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for asking. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest on wanting to sit on the Parks and Rec Commission?
Yes, I can. I am wired to connect with community. And it is a longtime passion to be able to give back in whatever way I can. I'm very actively involved in and across Greater West Bloomfield, even bigger than that. I'm now part of a NACO affiliate, the National Association of Volunteers in Local Government. Part of my academic work was in helping any institutions understand what it means to engage volunteers in meaningful and important ways. And that includes serving as members of boards and commissions.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Maybe I should also add, I've been a school board member and a township trustee and have quite a list of accomplishments that I'm quite proud of.
To that end, I guess, a question, what would you like to see different or changed? What is your vision for Parks and Rec in Oakland County?
First, I should say that I am really impressed with the 5-year master plan. It is absolutely amazing. While I didn't get a chance to dig through every single line, and I was hoping you would ask this question, there is something I see an opportunity for. In the last goal, the one that relates to people, when I saw the word workforce, I'll tell you what I was looking for. I was hoping to see the words staff and volunteer. I'll put it this way, there are so many people who are ready, willing, and able to be part of supporting the wonderful communities and county that they live in, and I was hoping to see that. As an active volunteer, I've looked to see how might folk understand what that means, and because of my role with, we call ourselves NAFPLUG, because of my role there, I get a chance to see how other counties, not as big and bold and great as Oakland County, have opened their doors to be a bit more inclusive. And I should also add, I've spent quite a bit of personal energies being committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I can't even say that without being emotional, really. So when I saw that as a core, when I saw that as the first commitment in my county, I was impressed.
Any other questions? I have a technical question.
Sure.
Parks and Recreation Commission meets every first Wednesday of every month at 2:00 in the afternoon. Does that time sound good and work for you?
Absolutely, it works for me. I do my homework. I did a lot of it. I'm also part of encouraging smart women, not that we exclude men, but smart women to choose ways to engage and to bring others along. I'm a natural connector. And when I saw the initiatives plan, the commitment to partnerships across communities, well, that's where my friends hang out. So when I saw that, as well as the rest of what the county is committed to, there was no way I couldn't apply.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. I
Appreciate your time.
Have a good day.
sincerely appreciate this opportunity.
And that will, right? Yes, that will conclude the interview portion of today. Thank you to everyone. If anyone's still out there, thank you very much. Thank you to all of you for your patience. Let's go back now to item E, the building authority interviews. I would entertain the discussion. Commissioner Woodward.
So, just with the question, and obviously I don't regularly sit on Lago. I know we've made reference to Chris Ward coming here, identifying some needs for, the skills that, in terms of growth challenges or whatever for the organization. Have we reached out to the leadership of the building authority? Eric Pearson's the chair. To ask that question.
I have not.
I reached out to Eric McPherson just to ask if he had any topics that they recommended, which is on the handout.
Yes.
That I brought to the meeting, but we didn't ask if there was any specific need.
Per that.
Well, and I kept making reference to this very big project, it's not likely to be a one and done. It's going to be a multi-phase. The building retrofits, the capital outlay for the parking structure, a host of other things. And from the term it's a vacant position right now. Does someone resign?
The individual is not applying for reappointment.
Okay. So, and the appointment is empty at the end of the year or for next year and everything. So I don't believe that there'll be anything on deck, I guess. Mostly for my satisfaction, but I follow what the group wants, that I'd like to circle back with the leadership of the building authority and possibly even have Eric here at maybe the first meeting in January. Again, there's no meeting scheduled for the early portion of January and no action that's going to be needed, that we could probably take care of that. If we want to, possibly even do it next week and have a special meeting of this committee prior to the board meeting to take action, probably can get that. But I think having that feedback is really important, given the august nature of that project.
Yeah, I'll take flack on that one. And actually, so Chris was here anyway last week and we just detained him for a lot longer than we meant to.
So.
Yes, yeah, that's true. But I really appreciated that we had him and I guess, I would have done the same thing with Eric if he were coincidentally here. So the three things that he brought up, experience with responsible bidding and the RFP process. And I know that especially in this Pontiac project, we're going to be doing a lot of the RFPs upfront. Accredited apprenticeship programming and workforce development are the three big things that he flagged.
So if it's okay, again, I don't think it's going to delay any work if we postpone to the next library meeting to take action on that. And if not, maybe even sooner. If people want, I'll make that motion to postpone to the next live.
I support it.
Sure. I'll vote for that.
Okay.
Could we just bring Lago?
Yeah.
Thank you. No need to re-invite. Did you want to re-invite everyone? I don't feel like that's necessary.
No, I'm not going to do the interviews.
Mr. Chair, you have 7 yeas, 0 nays.
Could we communicate to all the applicants that their decision is pending? Or not pending, but that we've done this so that they're not caught off guard. I just, as a courtesy, feel they didn't screw up.
Typically, we tell them, this recommended board meeting would be when they actually appoint.
Right. But just so that they're not freaking out or whatever.
Sure.
Okay, so then discussion on Parks and Recreation. Any other discussion? Commissioner Loops.
I really would be interested in seeing Lance and Andrea continue as Parks and Rec commissioners. I thought they both had the experience and the energy to move forward with Parks and Rec, we do have a great reputation in Oakland County with our Parks and Rec, and I feel it's they're on the board, they're responsible for part of that reputation.
I appreciate that. Commissioner Hoffman.
I concur with Penny. I mean, they're already there, they're doing the job. My number one choice, of course, would be Andrea, because her experience and enthusiasm and everything, but I'm thinking that Lance is probably doing a good job too.
Mr. Jordan.
I concur with, the incumbents are doing a great job. Andrea has obviously been very instrumental in a number of things. Just trying to incorporate Parks and Recs administration. Both Chanel and actually Deborah had great recommendations for HR creativity. I liked Annette's education background that is, I guess, would be helpful. So I'd recommend Andrea and probably Annette to bring something fresh to the board.
Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just clarification, are we doing 3? Because there is the partial term of Amanda Herzog that expires as of November.
Right.
So it's the partial, so are we utilizing?
Not right now. So yeah, so there are 2 actual vacancies right now. And then there's technically Gary's vacancy also. And then there is also Andrea's vacancy, which is not right now, but will be soon.
No, it was effective yesterday.
It was effective yesterday. Oh, I don't know. I mean, we only solicited for these 2.
We have
That's true.
Because we have a lot of great candidates, right? I mean, as we discussed during the previous LAGO meeting, there was a lot of individuals who expressed interest for our Parks and Recreation Commission, and rightfully so, right? But given that it looks like we have 2.5, and I hate to say even half because the term for Amanda Herzog ends on 12/21 or 12/31/25. So it's still good 2 out of the 3 years, right? And so I guess my point of clarification is, are we moving forward with choosing 3 individuals from the interviews that we heard from today?
The answer would be, we are not, but we could. If there was the motion to like, if that was the temperature of the board, I'm flexible to that. Like, the plan right now is no, but also I'm not. I'm sticking the mud on that front. So, does that make sense?
It absolutely does, sure.
The answer is yes, is what you're saying.
Well, yes, if all of you want to. Yeah, I'll be a team player.
So within that being said, I also think that Andrea obviously is great. And having her, be reappointed, I could support. It interests me with Lola Banks, given that she's from Oak Park. And one of the things that I know we've talked about in the past is that representation across the county. And one of the things that we heard, I believe, from Mr. Ward during our last LAGO meeting was that there's not a lot of representation on that side of the county. But I also really thought that Deborah Macon also has some really good background experiences that I could see being useful on the Parks and Rec Commission.
Commissioner Woodward.
I mean, I'm gonna come back to the second question. I mean, there are a couple moving pieces. I would recommend that we stay at 2. Once we figure out, and the Democratic caucus will meet, they'll discuss Gary's appointment, and then allows for, I think, that 3rd appointment to look at appropriate geographic balance to make sure that we've got a good mix. And I think that's a better order. And we'll have a complete board in place. I mean, for making that decision to ensure the regional balance. I think that, Commissioner Nelson's referencing. So that being said, if we stay with 2, I think Andrea's leadership has been great. I think hearing also the HR meeting experience and also recognizing, the historical lack of representation for Pontiac. I think Chanel checks in a lot of boxes. and brings a lot of experience in the Parks and Rec space, that would be supportive of Andrea and Chanel.
Excuse me. Can we do one at a time? Like make a motion for one and then go to another, or?
Yeah, sure.
I'll move it if you don't want to, unless Andrea.
Moved by Commissioner Hoffman, seconded by Commissioner Woodward. Could you please prompt the vote for the reappointment of Andrea to the Parks and Recreation Board?
Did you get a?
Oh, I just did. It's a mute
Sure,
point.
you have 7 yeas, 0 nays?
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. It's a moot point at this point, but I also fully endorsed Andrea. That was, yeah, I completely agree with her being reappointed. I will, Chair Spargo, about go next. I completely agree with Commissioner Juliet. I think that with deference to respecting incumbents, because I do think Chanel and Deborah and Annette. I mean, we had a lot of really good interviews today, and I was really impressed with a lot of them. And I do want to respect the gaps that were identified by the Director of Parks and Recreation, and I think that those are very legitimate. And I think that Chanel and Deborah both particularly could go a long way to filling those gaps. I might lean toward Chanel, but really I would be happy with a lot of the folks up there today to fill that second spot. Commissioner Lutz.
I would like to continue with Lance as incumbent, and one of his references is from Chris Ward. And that was the only applicant who had a reference from our current Parks and Rec director.
He did do a disclaimer.
He did.
He did a disclaimer.
Chris told us that was not a consultant.
No, thank you.
Because we had that, we asked.
There was another one that had his name too.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah.
Commissioner Woodward, I said again.
No, I wanted to mention, like, Annette really impressed me. I think she laid out a bunch of things to make it, to provide better tools to administrators, and I leaned over to Anna. Actually, one thing, I think that she needs to go work for the park system. I think, even in a part-time, I know she's working somewhere else, but what she said, and I'm married to a teacher, I know we got, other educators on this board, having programming designed to help meet the education benchmarks makes it so much easier for educators to take advantage of it. But that's not a once a month type of meeting. That is a job. And so I will be circling back with, it's like, I don't know what our programming side is, but I think just based on everything that she said in terms of like scheduling trips and all that type of stuff, I think she definitely has the potential of a lot of assets for this park system.
I agree. If we're not gonna go with, if it's determined the committee doesn't want to go with Lance, I would support Annette. I think she's well-rounded, well-experienced. I think she would bring a lot.
That's not what I would say.
Pardon?
I would say she should work there, not be on the board there.
No, but I think she'd be good on the board for all the things she spoke of.
I would.
I'm trying to agree with you. No, I feel very strong. I think Chanel, in terms of the HR background, from Pontiac, the perspective, her experience, all the things that she's doing, I think she, again, it checks a lot of boxes that we're looking for, and I think that the administration and Chris Ward had highlighted without recommending an individual is an excellent choice.
I liked her too. Things I marked her down there.
Yeah, I always, as an introvert, I appreciate it when an introvert has the chutzpah to come do a scary interview like this. So I appreciated that.
I'll make the motion for Chanel.
Okay.
What's your motion?
Support
For Chanel.
Commissioner
Support.
support. To appoint Chanel.
Six yeas, one nay.
Thank you all very much. And then the last motion that I would entertain, obviously you guys can overrule me, but I would entertain a motion to go ahead with a third, not specifically a name, but like to do that process. And then we can discuss whether or not to do it after this. Moved by, is that your motion?
I just want to go back to Chanel and her application. There's not a phone number, so somebody would need to find a phone number.
I found it was on her resume, so that was the only one I did notice that, but I did find it on her resume.
Thank you.
Moved by,
I think,
is that it?
yes.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Nelson. Is there support? Oh, okay. Commissioner Delia, discussion on this motion then. Commissioner Nelson.
Again, I want to stress the importance. I think we heard from some really great people today. But I do believe that Deborah Macon would be a great addition, just in light of what we've heard today. And so I would like to make a motion for Deborah Macon in regards to filling the partial term.
I appreciate that. Discussion on whether or not to do three.
I gotcha.
But I'm picking up what you're putting down.
I hear you. I apologize.
No, all good. Is there any other discussion on that?
The original motion?
Yeah, whether or not to do three instead of two.
So what was the motion?
The motion is to do three. Commissioner Wood.
Again, I would just say that, that we communicate the world we're appointing to. There were two incumbents coming here. I think ensuring regional balance of that board is necessary, and we have some business that we have to take care of first, that we put off making that decision until we establish the next commissioner that's going to be on there. I mean, based on these other two, and then I think make that decision whether or not to invite other people to that that process. Do we need additional HR stuff, or what? I mean, whatever. And so, I mean, I guess if the motion is, I thought the motion was to proceed with the process of putting out there that we have another vacancy. But if it's like to pick three, I mean, I think we should stick with the two, fill the commission spot, and then fill the vacancy term.
Okay, so
I guess I'll be no on.
Any other things right now? Discussion?
I think we heard some from really great applicants. And like I said, when we go back to the previous Lago meeting, what, we have 15
applicants?
Total applicants? Like, that was a healthy amount. So I hear what Commissioner Woodward is saying. I don't agree with it because we have a really great list of individuals. Aside from the individuals that we heard from today, it was difficult to go through the 15 from our previous meeting. So I'm not convinced that we should move forward with reopening the application process up again. That's where I'm confused. I don't know if I'm hearing correctly, but it sounds like Commissioner Woodward wants to reopen the application process and have more applicants be submitted.
Not necessarily.
So I just
I
want to say that.
I think if I'll just say for what I'm saying, I'm sympathetic to both, I guess, and the reason that I might vote no would be because I genuinely don't know who among our board is interested in Gary's seat, and I do care about the geographic diversity of the commission, and I literally don't know who would be appointed to it, and I guess I would feel a type of way again if there's no Rochester representation and another city has two people on the commission. I'm not saying that would happen. I'm just like, that would rub me away. Commissioner Lutz, I saw your hand up though.
So our choices are to pick from the people we've interviewed today.
We could do that.
And that Gary's term is above and beyond the open seat available.
Correct.
Okay, so we still have 3 seats
That one
open?
has to be a commissioner.
3 seats open and a commissioner?
Correct.
And the 3rd seat expires when?
2025, but it was vacated yesterday.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was vacated yesterday, but it's not ending, so you need to finish that partial term.
Correct.
Okay.
So the motion on the table then is whether it is to do reappointments today. It's probably that vote.
Would we go through the whole interview process again if it's determined to delay, or would we stick with these?
I don't think we necessarily have to do that, and frankly, I would rather
To
not
just-
do that.
So then we could just delay it, but I guess look from this pool.
Yeah. Because that seems like quite a hassle to.
What are we voting on? Can we get this?
So, if you vote yes, then you want to pick a third person today. If you vote no, we're basically just punting that third general public opening. How we proceed with that third one is not decided yet. We could just use the same list, or we could reopen it. That's TBD. But yes is pick a third person right now, no is do not.
Mr. Chair, you have 3 yeas, 4 nays, motion failed.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll just, I don't even think we have to just, do we want to decide how to do that right now?
I think we decided the next meeting.
I agree. I don't think we have to do the whole process itself for what it's worth. Not that it's worth much, but for sure.
So just for clarification, is there gonna be any surprises with new names be brought into the list? Or are we confident that we're going off of the list that we heard from today?
Do you want to decide the process right now?
I'd be curious.
I have no idea. I'm just.
Chairman, since you're the one that recommended moving forward, are you looking at anticipating an individual from the list, or are you anticipating on adding another name?
I think all commissioners can always bring forth names.
So would we then go through the interview process?
So this is what I would say. So we've done an interview for these individuals, and I think if all of these individuals want to continue that, count their interview. If there is someone that helps achieve geographical balance as like one factor, and the committee wants to consider interviewing them, they should be allowed to do that.
Just the one, or open up interviews again?
If this body wants to post applications to solicit another 25, if commissioners want to submit people for consideration, I trust the committee to figure out if they, who would they seriously be considering. If there's people, it doesn't make any sense to not genuinely consider applicants that are coming forward. So if we put out an application process and most are not really seriously considering that, then no need to do that. I think we do have a lot of really, great candidates that are, that came here. Achieving some of these other objectives, I think it behooves the committee to consider them if there's support to consider them.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
It's funny, this is reminding me, I don't do this always, but I did watch the Troy City Council meeting where the Troy City Council had to do this exact same thing to fill Ann's seat. And
wow, what were you doing that night? You were just watching this virtually?
Laying in bed, listening to hours of public comment. But that's what I'm reminded of. Okay, so I'm trying to think about this process-wise. The vacancy is newly affected. So this is the first regular meeting where there is a vacancy. Thoughts on, sure, let's throw it out there to the public. One spot is now open on the Parks and Recreation Commission. Can we communicate to the folks who came and interviewed to us today that they're fast passed already into the last stage of the interview process? Because I don't want to have them go through an application again. I don't want them to have to interview again. I'm happy with them being shortlisted already, but I suppose if this is a brand new spot, like procedurally, I don't have a problem soliciting for it too. I don't know. I guess that makes sense to me, procedure-wise. Is there a comment on that? Someone please comment on that? Oh, God. Y'all.
I trust you to come up with a plan. I think it's, if there isn't anybody, my preference is that if there isn't anyone that rises to the top fairly short, in short order, who should be considered, and I get it to be to achieve, other objectives, then stick with this, and I don't think you need to go through. I don't want to waste a bunch of people's time applying for something if that's not, I mean, now that being said, I don't know if I would have ever seen Annette's name. I mean, like, I am absolutely serious. Like, this is the person that should be working at Parks. And so there might be value of building the pool of people to serve on this and other things. So I could go either way, I guess, on that.
Okay, shoot, all right, let's do that. Let's go out and solicit one spot. There will not be an interview for any new applicants. It's just, you have to have a good resume, because I don't want to have to do like multiple different things. Commissioner.
Okay, we go out and request new applicants. We should interview the new people.
Yeah,
Too. I know, I'm
I feel
trying
like
to
the
name
other
it out.
ones had to do it. Sorry.
Change.
I know. Because then if we do that, then it is 2 more meetings then, and that we have to do.
That's why we make the big bucks.
Do we want to do that?
2 more meetings?
Well, you'd have, I don't know, this was a 2-meeting process to do.
Yeah, because you'd get the list and then you'd have to select who you want to add to be interviewed, and then the next meeting they'd be interviewed. So yeah, it would be 2 meetings.
What if solicit members of the committee, just communicate who wants to be interviewed? I mean, I don't know if you have to have a meeting to do that. If you,
I mean, yeah, I guess.
yeah, I mean, because if members of the committee aren't, they want to interview the people that they have maybe some interest in supporting. I'm just trying to figure out a way to speed it up.
I know, I appreciate that, because I do want to do it expeditiously. Is it an OMA violation if we do that?
You're not deliberating, you're just like extending like who, like, you need a support of a member of this committee to be interviewed and communicate it to you, and you post, and then staff will schedule. You're not selecting.
Yeah, we've discussed that as an optional process before. So there's not one meeting, and then on top of that,
Okay.
Can we, so we interviewed 6 people for this. So if moving forward, if we do the selection, is there a number that we're trying to keep it down to of additional people? Since we already have. Can I cap it? Just thinking of time and profit.
I know. I don't know. Commissioner Hoffman.
I mean, it seems like if somebody wants to bring somebody forward, bring them forward, we'll interview them. If not, we already have 4 other good candidates, and we can pick off that list. Unless there's some other thought.
No, that's consistent with what you said last time too, so I appreciate that. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm mentally lost now. What am I deciding?
are you gonna advertise?
Yes. Yes.
Then how many new applicants do you want to interview?
Limited to 1.
I will authorize the scheduling of any interview that one of my colleagues on this commission recommends to me.
Okay.
If you so want, if you email me every single person.
I send you the list of all my friends that only do 3. Maybe 4.
Okay, and we'll do that at our first meeting. Yeah, I guess.
Between now and then, we'll make that decision of who to interview. And so at the first meeting, we can interview applicants.
Yeah. And would you also communicate to the people who were not appointed today, but did interview today, that their interview will have been considered done and that they are in consideration for the 3rd spot also?
Yes.
I mean, they very well could be. That was frustrating. Thank you all. I appreciate the deliberation. Are we good to move on?
Okay, we still have one more item too.
We do. And I know that Charlie is on the horn and Gwen might very well be too.
Gwen?
So moving on then, I would entertain a motion to recommend to the board, item G, Board of Commissioners supporting Senate Bills 483 to 485 to enact the PDAB Act. Charlie, welcome. Oh, sorry.
Hi,
It's Commissioner Lubes, seconded by Commissioner Juliana. Thank you very much. Welcome, Charlie. Now you.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes.
Great, okay. So this is a package of Senate bills that would create a prescription drug affordability board. This is something that's been considered in 11 states and become law in 8 of them. Michigan would be the 9th. This has passed the state Senate and is now sitting in the House Insurance Financial Services Committee. And so the thinking here is with our resolution is to urge action before the end of this term for the House. A couple things to mention about what a PDAB does is they help create upper price limits for super expensive drugs, things like MS, things like cancer drugs, this sort of thing. They sometimes exclude self-funded prescription drug plans. And also, a lot of these sorts of boards create a price transparency dashboard for drug prices. So while they might not lower drug prices for everything or for everyone, they do oftentimes work to create these dashboards so that people can see how much a generic version of their drug might cost so that consumers have better choice. And one interesting note that you'll see on the resolution, which thank you to Amy for having done the extra research to find this info, which is apparently 60% of Michiganders over the age of 50 said that they went without filling a prescription that they were recommended by their doctor because of price in the last year. So that's a pretty damning number. And this would make moves towards remedying that. So I'm happy to take any questions and hope for your support.
Kelly, questions, comments, concerns? Commissioner Hoffman.
Charlie, I do have a question. When they
I knew you would, Bob. I got you on my piece of paper. Yeah.
When you talk about capping the price of a prescription drug, is this something they do through negotiation with the drug companies? Or somebody picks a number? I mean,
the affordability board would be able to create a upper price limit. So that would in effect be a cap. And this has gone through the courts. Actually, Arkansas had some court case related to this that went all the way up to the Supreme Court back in 2021 that allowed for these types of things to happen because states have now more authority, thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act, more authority to work on helping set these sorts of caps.
all right, what if they set the cap too low and some drug company says, I'm not selling those drugs? We're in worse shape yet. Can't be an arbitrary
That's
number.
a great question. Yeah, it's a great question, but that hasn't happened, so I don't know.
So having worked on some of these issues around with legislators around the state, basically what this board empowers the state of Michigan with its giant purchasing power, particularly under Medicaid, some cases employee benefits and everything. The market share is so big that a drug company basically is going to go, do you want to sell your product or not want to sell your product? And so what these effectively allow for is a legal way to negotiate and bring costs down. It's pretty hard to argue that I can sell to this country the same drug at this level, and yet we charge at this level. And so there's that wiggle room to figure it out. So that's how these boards historically are able to operate, because they bring the purchasing power of a 10 million person state.
Right.
And all, I mean, red states, blue states have seen the cost of drugs fall as a result of these.
Yeah, and I agree. I think we all agree drug prices are way too high.
Also, it's worth mentioning this is something that was sponsored by Kristen McDonald Rivet, who is Karen McDonald's sister.
Thank you for that. Motion on the table is to recommend to the board. Madam Clerk, would you please count that vote?
Sure you have 7 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, everyone.
Hi, Charlie.
With that, and apologies to our next chair, I know we're running quite over. I'll open up public comment number 2. Anyone from the public wishing to address us on any item at all? Seeing none, we'll close public comment number 2. Any other business? Anyone else have anything? All right, with that, I will adjourn at 11:30 promptly.
Good job.